Hey, hey, have you ever noticed that when companies grow, processes like customer service start to slip rather than improve?
More customers means more emails, more chats, more calls. Then suddenly, customer service is trying to catch up.
And your first reaction is maybe we need to hire more people.
But you know what? That rarely actually solves the problem. So let's talk about what actually does.
Hey, and welcome back to Business. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Francis.
And my name is Penny. And thank you again for tuning in. So how have you been, Francis? I think just so everyone knows. Before this, we've been talking about how to enunciate stuff and be more articulate, which I guess.
And now I feel like we're grammar not seeing each other. I'm gonna be listening out to everything.
Oh
How
no,
have
you
you?
and I have
How
been grammar Nazis for a
I
long time,
know.
Francis. Do you remember like going to events and sometimes just looking at each other when something.
Yeah. I can't even remember that version of me. I mean, I think we still do. Or is it because like we're harsher as as Filipinos who has a second language as a first language, right?
I
Like
think
the same
so.
way that yeah, like in the same way that French people um when you're outside of France and you say baguette. What was the other one?
But
Like
croissant.
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 Yeah, if it's a croissant, you can be forgiven for saying croissant. But when you're in France,
Oh, you should. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, dapat with a hawk through
yeah.
croissant.
Croissant.
Why? Why? Wait. Why did I go? No, but seriously, like a little off tangent. But I feel like we're a lot harsher on ourselves,
Mm,
right? As opposed
a
to
little
you know,
bit. Yeah, same.
yeah. When you're when and besides when you're global, English really takes on so many different forms and so many different accents that you can be forgiven. Yet we are still harsher on ourselves.
No, I think
But
I know this is like very very off topic, but let's this is the last thing that I'll say
let's
about it.
dive into
Yeah, no, this is
it.
the last thing I'll say about it.
Oh,
I
it's
think
okay.
when we were a bit younger, when we were starting our careers and everything, everyone had to have like an American accent. You were trained for it, right?
The American
You,
accent was the
yeah,
standard.
or American accent or neutral accent, right? And now that more companies are more global because of the remote setup, outsourcing being more, I guess it was in back then, like it was of course used by a lot of companies back then, but now like more countries are also doing it, right? Now we are a little bit more I guess accepting of the different accents, plus the reels, right? Like accepting through the reels, like I love your Filipino accent and things like that. I think it's kind of
Jodoran.
involved because second floor. uh
Second floor.
but that's the last thing I will say about.
No, no, no. You brought that up. I love your Filipino accent. Say it with me.
By going back to outsourcing, Francis, again, thank you so much for
I'm back,
tuning
back.
in. That's not the topic for today. It will be a
Our
topic in the
topic for
future.
today. Who
In
might?
the
Who
future, but
knows?
not today.
But today, we are talking about, two different models that often happen with outsourcing. Wherein, and how helpful that is. Like maybe even with internal teams, like how helpful is one model versus another when it comes to the time when companies have to scale and grow. And we are talking about how teams are more uh, kept at arm's length or embedded. And I think
Yes.
we've experienced both, haven't we?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think the first one, actually, one of the reasons why we structured our team this way, or at least this is how we offer our service through embedded teams, is because we experienced it firsthand with the startup that we were with, where as like it wasn't as if there was another team separate from us. We were part of the team in the US. Like even though the customer success developers were all from the US, they actually also ask us regarding our opinions, sometimes even having, meetings with us regarding product and things like that. And I think that's also one of the reasons why we like this kind of model, apart from being also it's also part of our personalities to be just be like
Nosy
wanting to be embedded, yeah,
divas.
to be nosy divas. So that's I think one of the reasons why we're built this way and why we operate this way is because we've seen how it actually works. On the other hand, I know you've experienced being a little bit apart
Embedded,
from, yeah, not embedded. What's the opposite of embedded? Not embedded.
not bedded.
not 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 embedded, which is not a good place to
Outside the
be in.
Colombo.
On the
Actually,
floor, on the dog in the doghouse.
yeah, actually, it's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
Hmm. What do you mean?
See, if you're not in bed,
You're out of the
if
bed.
you're you're out of
No, but yeah, okay, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. If you're not embedded, which is you feel like you're in the team, you're out the bed, which you feel is like you're separate from what's happening. Is that it? Like I'm trying to bridge whatever you got us into, Francis, but
yeah,
I think I got
it's
it
exactly
there.
that. You know, you actually did, but I don't think embedded actually means like in bed. It's
I know.
embedded. It's this is this is
Anyway,
gonna be this is gonna go everywhere and nowhere at the same time. But anyway, so I think the point is, we've seen both how both model works, and especially from scaling, from a scaling perspective. I think we've seen this many times, because when you're a small company, even if it's a mid-sized company with a smaller department, the challenge often is, how do I take my how do I scale from one person to two to four to six to eight people, right? Because before, even you're the developer, like let's take it from the simplest example. I am the business, I am the developer, I code, I set up the product, I got people using it, people start having questions, I have to answer. And because that is the model, there's no need to bridge or scale or embed or out of bed, because you're the singular entity handling things, right? You are it. You are the product. You are the brand. And when as soon as you start seeing that there's a need to grow, I now split it into, maybe I'll get an assistant, and then the assistant directly feeds from vampire. The you have an assistant that directly gets information, know how, and possibly depending on how this person is latched onto you and your business, maybe it takes on more of the responsibility so you can scale, right? I'm able to make decisions, and maybe he stops being an assistant and starts being head of customer service. And now I say, we now have more customers, I now need to grow. Right? So that's your that's your typical story. And uh I think the on the first hand, like when you have grassroots companies who say, "Oh, we're a lot more closer," or "We're a boutique service," which means we work closer with our clients. Actually, there's that part where boutique, it becomes a strength, because me as the, maybe as the owner, or part of a very small core team, can make decisions, or actions, or pivot as necessary, because there's nobody else accountable to, right? The problem is when you have a country manager of an entire department built solely on customer service. You realize that when you have a country manager, how many levels away from the person on the ground that is, because you have a country manager, and then you have regional directors, and then you have directors, and then managers,
Ops
managers,
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 yeah,
managers, managers,
true,
right?
true,
So sometimes when something happens, it's not that easy to pivot.
yeah.
Pivot.
Yeah, I think what you mean by that is, since there's a lot more levels, sometimes I think that one of the agents is going to be bringing up, they do tell their TL, but then their TL doesn't think that it's or even
Important
forgets,
enough.
right, to bring it up, and so the problem just stays the same, even though, and there are instances where the problem is the start of a bigger problem that could have been caught, right? But then
Early
because
on.
there's, yeah, early on, but then
Or when
since
people
there's a lot
notice
of levels,
patterns. Yeah.
yeah, yes, because you're all scattered, or at least several people see the problem, but they don't see the overview of, okay, there's already a pattern here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, if there's 100 people who saw one part of the problem, you don't necessarily see that it's up a problem. So it has to have enough people looking into it, which again is very different if you're the only person or maybe part of a group of 4 or 5 who's receiving everything, that you can easily grab somebody and say, you notice, yeah, hey,
Like,
hey, are
hey,
you
this is
okay?
like, hey, this is it looks like this issue has been coming up quite frequently. Like, sometimes, if I remember correctly, when we were talking to one of the developers, or at least I think at this point it was the VP of engineering, that we're the person that we were talking to. He called it velocity of the issue, right? Where, okay, there's a lot more people talking about this issue versus an issue that does come up, but once a month. Like, there are tickets about it. There is a pattern for it, but it's only a once a month problem versus, okay, this has just come up now, but already like 10 people have asked about it. So there's also that part where, in embedded teams, because you are going to be able to talk to someone right away regarding what you're seeing, it's easier to tell it that way, or at least it's easier to document it that way, and then give it to someone who can actually, or who needs to take care of it, which is usually, in our experience, the developers who have to kind of look into it and see what's happening and why this issue is coming up.
Technically not the developers, it's the product team tells, which is fairly beside the, yeah, very very besides the point. But you're right, there's a big difference between something that's broken and an issue that pops up every now and then, when somebody runs into the, so why doesn't your product do this, why doesn't your product do this, or why does your product do that, which is either a feature request or a feature limitation. However, having said that, having said that, the problem again is, say for example you've reached a point of scaling where the decision to hire in-house or um outsource, becomes the you know decision for growth, the direction that you want to take. When you outsource, you have two choices. You want to say, here's our list of tasks, go do it, right? As opposed to, hi, welcome to the team. You're outsourced, you're an outsourced team, but this is how we're going to work. This is our day-to-day lives. And some companies really keep their keep their outsourced ties at arm's length. Like, no, 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 here's the list of things that you need to do, go do. Which maybe is not a problem if it's just, like routine tasks, like, send this email. Like, it can be that date research and data. But things that need a loop, like we always try to do with our customers, is, here's what we want you to do, but tell us if it needs improvement, because you're closer to the ground than we are, or you're going to be closer to the ground than we are. Something that, sometimes some teams forget, right? So anyway, what would your experience be like as a customer? And we did say early on um that it sometimes becomes very noticeable when a company has grown at a faster rate, right? And things do begin to crumble, or is it crumble, fall apart, or maybe not be able to catch up. I'll talk about it from the inside. Actually, I think I remember a time separating. What's 2013? Has it been 13 years, Penny?
Yes, 13 years.
Uh, yeah. Yeah. And separating 2013, because I know this is an experience that we talk about. Remember that time when I told you, is it so hard? for for product to tell us that they're in fact making a release rather than us finding about it from the
Yeah.
customers.
True. True. Yeah.
Remember that?
And mind you, it's not just that experience. We've also experienced it with our other customers about
Yeah,
the
exactly.
lack of cascading information. Yeah, especially
Yeah.
pre-release.
You'd think you'd think as a whole the company should know about the problem as opposed to be like it. And that's really like a deer caught in the headlights moment when they say, I noticed you changed your entire homepage. And you're like, we did. I don't know if you remember. I think the issue is, how hard is it to tell your whole team or your whole company first to say, by the way, we're making major breaking changes to our UI, or releasing a feature, as opposed to the customer service team finding out from from your customers, or when your customers start saying, by the way, you released this new feature and something's wrong with it. And you know you get caught off guard that instead of you knowing about it first,
Mm-hmm.
you find out about it from the customers. It's never a good experience, right? And
Yeah.
that kind of goes far beyond just features and stuff. But you do remember that, right? And
Yeah.
how does that make you feel? And
I
excluded.
Absolutely. Like it's not even just with the startup that we were with. Even the bigger companies sometimes have this gap. Which is why, like in our intro, we were talking about scaling companies, and then the customer service or customer satisfaction, crumbles, as you said, is because sometimes these things are not thought through. Like it's not just hiring the people. You can hire people, right? Especially if there's a lot of volume and everything. But then the internal structure has to be there. And this is one of those structures that needs to be on point, which is cascading information, not just the changes that you're talking about, but even some of the major what do you call this major campaigns that's happening within the company. I remember, like, apart from this, like, I remember talking to a client and telling them that if they have any major campaigns, like promos that they were going to be putting out, to let the customer team know, because at least, right, like I could prepare the team, we could prepare the team that, hey, we are probably going to be experiencing a higher volume in during these days because we're pushing a promotion. And so by that point, not are we not the team is not only prepared for it, but there is also like processes in place, maybe documentation in place on how to go about questions that are frequently asked. And this just happened, this structure of cascading that information is very important in scaling your team, not just hiring the
especially
heads. Hmm.
especially if you're involving that team.
Yeah.
um we're just gonna go through a couple examples of this, I think,
Hmm.
and because it's fun. So we've worked outsourced our whole life, even before virtual. We were freelance. We were working in call centers.
Mm.
Well, plural for me, singular for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just gonna tell you the story one time. And I might disagree on some things, or maybe we are talking about the same thing, like different facets. So one time I worked for this telecom company that
Mm.
we will not name, but we shall call them AT&T. So we were working inbound, like a hybrid inbound customer service slash sales,
Hmm.
upselling gig. But people would call in and they go, um, my long distance is broken, or X concerns regarding phones. It's always about phones anyway. And then one time, people were calling in and said, "So regarding the commercial, or I'm calling in regarding the commercial," and I was like, "Okay, what about it?" and, and because it was a commercial, obviously, like there's a thing regarding marketing that said something like, if you call in, you can get like, I don't know, like a $50 switching, or a $10 switching bonus, whatever, right? And and here's something that maybe in collaboration with sales and marketing, or marketing and some sort of like campaign that said call into customer service, and conveniently forgot to tell customer service that that people might be calling in about this, which there's a very distinct gap between the process wherein you say, by the way, we're releasing this commercial and people might be calling in, right? Second, although you'd expect that when you said bigger companies uh tend to forget, I do have this experience where anything major needs to ensure that all of the stakeholders and all of the affected departments are thoroughly made aware, including getting an email that says, I have been made aware of this effort, which I love, to be honest. But then again, it takes a while to move those things, like if they're corporate giants. So if they say, oh, we're running this campaign, like, so who's involved? Sales will be involved, customer service will be involved, store people will be involved. So it felt like a weird, very very special sort of thing that you're gathered as an entire department, and they say, by the way, guys, we're running this commercial. The new thing is going to look like this. They'll be calling these customers. How will this affect you? How will this affect you in your role, right? So when somebody calls in, you go to this link, bookmark this for now until you're confident to answer this, and they will have questions like, which again I really loved and have brought this with me. Um, but they go, what might you expect to hear from customers? What might they be calling in about? Here's some frequently asked questions, which is funny because you say frequently asked, but the campaign hasn't even
Hasn't
been out yet,
started yet. Yeah, yeah. Mm.
right? But they're assuming that there'll be frequent questions about, and I thought that was really really fun. But they treated us like your team. Like, here's an entire company based out in the US, but they send their teams here for continuous training, for lived experiences, or saying how this is how it's like in the company, in the company. Like, they're trying to give you little snippets of what the culture is like. And I thought, we're gonna do this moving forward, and I think that's what uh we experienced ourselves. So we want really to, uh when we started implementing it with our own teams and eventually with Virtua, the one thing that I thought would be really really awesome is to not treat it as a job, which it is, but to treat it like, almost like it's part of your lifestyle. And little did I know that is one of our determining factors, where people say, where customers say, I can trust them to not just do and execute, but to be able to give feedback, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Just to add to your point regarding about the FAQs and things like that, I think in our experience in one of the accounts that we have, I remember distinctly this one was pretty different because it's not just there are pre-release, but then some of these pre-releases, so hard to say that pre-releases are just for specific geos. It's not like okay, everyone knows that it's going to be released, but then it's also just going to be released in Florida. So I think just to make it more comprehensive, if that was the case, and it's a case of you also testing out in just specific geo, please do let your people know, whoever is going to be taking care of the customers, which geo it is. If you can give them even a list of customers, I remember if you remember like way back, and that was okay. Let me go back. So this experience is with a bigger corporation, right? Like they were handling a lot of geos in the US. And so they were only testing it in several areas. Please let your team know regarding, okay, we're only testing it in these geos. And apart from, being presented in slide form, hey, this is going to be, what's going to be happening. This is the feature. Please also let your customer people kind of test it out for themselves. Because how can your people, right, be able to tell the customer, okay, you go to this, you can go, you want to do this, go to the top right and click on this one, and then you'll get to the next page or whatever it is that the customer wants. Because you and I have experience where we're able to actually play around with whatever is being tested, and we've also experienced an account where it's just presented, hey, here's the changes, all text, but then you're also expected to support
you'll
it.
be lucky if you get a screenshot or two.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, just make it more comprehensive if you're going to be doing that. And the bigger you go in the company, the bigger you grow, rather, the more it. I think the more that there's a tendency to just rely on text, on copies, rather than like have that actual conversation and meeting and present it and have people play around with the feature, with a new
Yeah,
feature.
sometimes they have mock-ups.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not implemented in the UI yet, but like here's some mock-up of what you're going to do, and sometimes you even have like, let's pretend scenarios. Now we're diving too much into the technical side of things. Not really, not diving too much. I do remember, just to react to what you said regarding, um, you know, to be part of a team that says this doesn't affect you, but we want you to know about it. It's very important. It's very important because it's a sometimes the reaction is, it doesn't affect me, why do I have to learn about it? But it's really more, it would be great to know about it. Like at least you can say, I've heard about that. It doesn't apply to you, it only applies to Florida, because it just enhances your ability to
Yes,
answer questions,
enhance.
right?
I think yes, I like that word, enhance. In one of our
Right, because
accounts
it's a
as well,
very
I
novel word. Enhance.
no, I remember in one of the accounts where not for some people, right? For some companies, your customer support. So most of the time, all you really have to learn about is supposed to be the product. But if you know who your customer, if you as a corporation or a company lets your customer support team know who your customers are, right? Like maybe go above and beyond. No, maybe go further than just, hey, our customers are realtors. Maybe tell them, okay, we're realtors, but then there's also brokerages. And so there's a principal broker, like explaining that hierarchy to your customer support team or whoever is, in charge of customer experience, whether it's customer success or whoever it is, that hierarchy, and even who the principal people are, like the VIPs as well, actually also helps them out, because not only are they okay, if it's actually a principal, I don't know, customer or a VIP customer that's bringing up this, or high value customer, high revenue. What do you call it? High value, right? Is that
High
how we call it?
value.
High value. It's a high value customer that's bringing up this feedback. Maybe I should go ahead and bring this up to the whoever needs to
Yeah.
know, like
That
escalate
it
it.
completely, that it completely upends the rule book, because this customer who is asking for something that, otherwise we would tell any other customer that's not possible, that because the ask is coming from VIP triple plus customer, that it
Hmm.
might just shift. See, now it's a different thing when they ask, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, going back, can I? I'm not gonna be able to, to move forward without me saying this. You remember, because you said realtor. There's an episode of Modern Family, where she goes, "Aren't you some kind of real estate agent?" He is not just a real estate agent. He is a realtor. There is a difference somehow. Of course, I wanted to. As soon as I see somebody who calls themselves a realtor, like, and there
Like,
is a
do you
difference
have these
somehow.
things in your back pocket and just like, at some point I'm gonna use this snippet.
I mean, you kind of know that I do. Like when there's something that when it's an interesting word, like I can't
Oh
wait to
yeah,
like
true.
find the next appropriate moment to use it. But there's a lot. There's a lot of Gloria isms in Modern Family
Mm.
that I really, that. Do you know how hard it is? I'm a very, I'm a very smart woman in my own country, in my own language.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah, I heard this snippet.
yeah, you
All
know
right,
how hard
so
it is to think in a
so
different language.
Well, yeah, actually it is,
Kind of
because
is.
you and I are actually not speaking in our native language, right? So I guess you and I kind of relate to it. But just going back, right? So we've talked about, when you're scaling, you're growing, whether or even when you're just starting, right? Like a customer satisfaction, you're growing. It's not just really just adding on the headcount that matters. It's also having that structure. So you and I have talked about involving your team rather than just giving them the tasks, giving them the goal. We've also talked about, cascading information the right way, and not just, hey, this is happening, right? And then we've also talked about giving your team, your embedded team, a little bit more context rather than just what you think they're supposed to understand. What else do you think, yeah, for embedded teams, what else do you think is really important, so that the company, or whoever, the company, the startup, the corporation, gets the best customer service for their clients? Is there anything else that should be there? Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can only think about think about it from scale, but to
Mm-hmm.
also keep it human. Uh, so when you say, sometimes the bigger the company is, it just goes down to processes, and
Oh,
sometimes the
true.
people who come out and make these processes forget that there's like a human element to
True.
things, that that people need to take 15-minute breaks, and they go, why do they need to take breaks? Why don't they just take a water bottle with them on their desk, and then they can be more efficient? I mean, it's kind of
Yeah, I
true.
understand. Yeah.
That's because process improvement, for the sake of process improvement, will really push the boundaries of efficiency. Like,
Mm-hmm.
why do they need to sleep? Why do they need to talk? What is a water break, and how efficient is, what kind of profit does that bring to the company? And
Yeah.
just kick
I
things
think
out the
my
window.
my experience on this is regarding the handle time, right? I know, like, in the efficiency side, right? Like our hope is always, okay, we have so many customers to talk to support and to go through, so we need to keep our handle time in 2 minutes. But then you're talking to someone who actually needs a lot more time, more than 2 minutes of your time. And so, as much as there are like KPIs that you need to, yes, about keeping it human when you're scaling, because first of all, like, the reason why you're scaling is because of your customers.
The 100%, you forget that sometimes when they go, uh I I want a refund, for example, is barely scratching the surface of the concern. When a customer calls in, takes that time to call in, there's usually more concerns like that. And this is sometimes the big parcel of understanding how much you want to give time to your customers, and how much you want to give time to the business, and say, get on, move on to the next customer. Like, when somebody says, oh, I want a refund, I've been with you guys for 20 years, and I've always liked your products, but this particular product, I didn't like it. I will continue to order from you, but for now, I just want a refund. And for efficiency's sake, would go, here's your refund, thank you. Right? When it's really supposed to be, oh my God, thank you so much for being a customer for the past 20 years. I've loved that you love our products. And I'm really sorry that this one didn't really work out in your favor. You know what? I'm gonna give you that refund. I'm gonna give you an extra 5% on your next purchase, because you've been such a loyal customer to us. That the difference between giving the concern, and showing that person that their loyalty is appreciated, will make or break many, many conversations in that call. One says efficiency, one says, let's give them something extra to appreciate their business. We did it give the same outcome? Yes. But will somebody who is just interested in saying, um no, 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 for efficiency's sake? But more importantly, if you're a department who is closest to the ground, right? And so, for example, somebody says, this is what you do, because if you don't do this, your KPIs will be shot, you'll be let go. But as soon as you do that, you know when you go, I just wanted to let you know I've been a loyal customer for this, and I'm very, very disappointed. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Yada, goodbye. Right? That you're going to get complaints, that you're going to get blah, blah. And then, as soon as people start noticing that, sometimes you don't even have to start taking calls. As soon as you get that kind of, is this what we're supposed to do? Oh my God, the customers will be so disappointed. You know, but do you take the time to understand, like, what are your sentiments? Like, are you able to say that to somebody who has enough pull to say maybe we're going to do something wrong, or do we have to wait for, right? And the thing about, when your team is just taking orders, and executing, you take away that valuable feedback, like, what do you think about this new process, right? What do you think about this, because it's also preventative. Whether do you think we should run it, or should we run it? Or sometimes the problem is, if you're not talking to those people directly, maybe some of the unintended effects are calculated, right? Like, we might break a few eggs, but we need to move forward. And I know I had to I think I remember that I had to bug you a few times when we said, like, we're going to close all of these tickets for the sake of efficiency, and if they have a problem with it, yeah. And they said, but it's, they were waiting for an answer, blah blah blah. And you had to, I remember, I think you had to set up a meeting back then, and they go, yes, we understand that some people will be upset, but we have to do it this way so that we can move forward. Like, I think I remember something similar to that. So the point is, they took the time to understand, to hear. And you don't necessarily get that kind of feedback when it's just, when the model is literally just, uh company representative, outsourced company representative, and the bottleneck is here.
Which is that, yeah, which does happen most of the time, because sometimes in those conversations they do become a little what do you call this, sterilized, unless you design it in such a way where you are actually hearing what needs to be heard. So there is, like, when I say that needs to be heard, where it's an actual open conversation rather than a, how do you call it, like a top down thing, like rather like a client to vendor thing. It has to be a partnership rather than, hey, just do this because, not just do this, but do this because, and here's everything. So it's not just really, having more heads. Maybe it's really also making sure that your team is also supported, which again, we've talked about, having the right information in place, having the right kind of relationship and the right culture in place. When I say culture, what you meant earlier regarding being human, right? Like making sure that you're also communicating that to your people. Now, okay, as much as I know that we have these KPIs, there are going to be those certain special circumstances, special scenarios where you have to take a little bit more time. You have to handle with a little bit more care. So yeah, not just the headcount, but also the inner workings, I guess, needs to be fixed before you even start hiring.
No, you're absolutely right. The answer isn't always we need more people. Like, I mean, I think all of our examples was more, how do we how do we take the how do we take a closed circuit and maintain, how to maintain that circuit, the more people you have. And, not to use another analogy, but you sort of experienced that firsthand when it was just, you and me against the world. And then you start separating it into departments, and then you realize that just because you now have departments doesn't mean that you're aligned, that the communication is working, that, there are things that you expect, but you don't communicate telepathically, and not everybody can be, can have a conversation with the eyes, or the thoughts. But more importantly, when it now becomes, companies that scale, that, as soon as you go, okay, let's get a let's outsource our marketing, or our customer service, and then we go, here's what we want to do. There's a lot of writing down processes and expectations, and understanding where the loop is and where the loop is broken, in order to both empower the team that is now executing it, and making sure that they're empowered to say, to not just do their job, but to also say, here's what but to be able to give feedback, and I think that's one of the really the biggest things that gets overlooked, like the power of feedback, the power of the survey. uh for those of you who who get, um how likely are you to recommend this to a friend or colleague? Really take that seriously, because somewhere there's a data analyst, probably AI by now, who will take those surveys, and they will take those surveys and say, by the way, we took a survey of the the thing, the initiative that we're after, and 96% of people say they're very satisfied with what they're doing, and only 4 people said this. You'll never know what the effect of that what that survey is. But also, more importantly, be appreciative that somebody's taking the time to put out that survey. That says a lot about their efforts to to keep everybody in the loop and everybody's opinion in the loop. Anyway, well, why do we say this? Why do we say this? um I think we've tried a couple of things. When you say, when companies scale their support, here are some mistakes that come along, that inevitably happen. What is the biggest mistake that companies, that maybe you've been in one, maybe you've seen one, but what kind of mistakes do companies make when they scale customer support? Have you been part of one? Have you been on the receiving end of one? Please let us know.
Please let us know. We want to know what's your take. And any of your answers, please do comment down below or send us a message. We'd love to know what's your take on this. So, I think we've kind of talked a lot about customer support, as well as customer satisfaction and how to handle your team, right? When it, especially if your priority is to make sure that your customers are satisfied. We talked a lot about things that you could be looking at apart from adding on headcount, but I think but there are a lot more things that you also have to consider. I think for me that you also have to consider that we did not touch here. If you think there's anything else that we could have touched, please also let us know. But yeah,
Let us
I
know.
think it's a, what do you call this? It's a culmination of a lot of experiences for you and I, Francis, trying to get to that percentile of of CSAT scores. Based on our years of experience in doing tech support for companies small and large.
I will carry these experiences with me, and I will shout and evangelize to anybody who would listen. So if you're interested in finding out, come find this. But for now, but for now, that is it for today's episode of Business. But of course, the conversation doesn't stop there.
Let's keep the buzz going. Follow Virtua on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and send us your thoughts, and let's talk business.
And remember, you can also find Business on YouTube, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and TikTok. So you can listen anytime, anywhere. If you want to listen to this madness, please.
Yeah. If you want to listen to two crazy people, two nosy divas, please do watch our other episodes in the next one. So please, so until next time, please keep moving, keep hustling, keep innovating. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye, guys. Bye, guys,
Bye.
girls, everyone. Bye.